Hello friends, welcome to this video. Today I thought I would share a couple of shops that I went to in Italy where I was able to find some tarot decks. I think a couple of you out there might be interested in this as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Shop number one is one that I'm sure many of you out there who are into tarot are already aware of or quite familiar with, and that is Il Meneghello. Il Meneghello is a tarot artisan shop that produces handmade tarot decks, and many of them are well known and well loved by tarot enthusiasts. So the shop itself is a very beautiful, cozy little space. But personally, what I loved most about it is that they have a lot of tarot decks out there on display that you can actually take out of the box and shuffle, look at the cards up close and whatnot. So that was really, really good to be able to do because, prior to traveling to Italy, I watched a bunch of walkthroughs, flip throughs, and all those things on YouTube. So I had a sense of what some of the decks were like, but I have to say that some of them did feel a bit different from what I had expected. Uh, Not necessarily in a bad way, okay? But in terms of the cardstock or the colors, sometimes these are things that you can't quite get through the screen. So, if you're in Milan and you have the chance to go to Il Meneghello in person, I would highly, highly suggest you do. And pick up a few decks, of course. And yeah, so it was just overall a really great experience. Okay, this is shop number two. This one is also in Milan, and I would say, within walking distance of Il Meneghello. And this shop is called Libreria Esoterica. And they specialize in all things esoteric related, as you can tell from the name. Um, they've got a huge number of books, but it's too bad that I don't read Italian. Uh, I think there were a couple of English books as well, but I guess I was really there for the tarot decks. But yeah, they also sell a number of metaphysical related items as well. So like crystals, that sort of stuff. But anyways, in terms of tarot, they have a really great selection of decks there. I would say maybe like half of the decks were sort of like these mass market decks, but in their Italian counterparts. And then there were also a bunch of decks that were, I believe, from Italian publishers. So that was really nice. Like throughout the trip, when I was going to all these tarot shops, I think the focus for me was the Italian decks or decks that you could mainly find in Italy only. So yeah, I didn't take a real good look at the mass market stuff, but anyways, they also had this display case that was locked with some other tarot decks in there as well, and uh, I was interested in taking a look at some of them, so I was able to ask, and they were, very kind to open the case and show me some of those decks. So yeah, if you ever go there and you want to take a look at some of those decks in that display case, feel free to just ask, and I'm sure they would be happy to open up the case and show you those decks as well. But in general, like, this shop, I think, is a great place to just chill and hang out because there's just so much to see there. A wonderful, wonderful, highly recommended shop for tarot decks and beyond. Okay, for this next shop, we are leaving Milan and heading to Florence. This shop isn't really a tarot deck specific shop. It's called Signum, and they have a couple of locations around Florence. And Signum is a shop that specializes in handcrafted paper goods. So, stuff like journals, notepads, they have some art pieces as well, postcards, all that sort of good stuff. All of them are so beautiful. And, I wasn't expecting to find tarot decks there, but I was walking around, and at that particular location that I was at, and I guess I'll put up like a map and maybe circle the one that I was at. I noticed there were two little display cases, and inside there were some Il Meneghello tarot decks. So that was a nice surprise. They obviously didn't have all of the decks, right? But there was a nice little selection there. So, if you can't make it to Milan, but you're in Florence and you're on the look for some decks, then yeah, maybe check out Signum. I think there was also one other deck that was not an Il Meneghello deck in the display case. But yeah, so that was just that one Signum location that I went to. And maybe you can also check out the other ones as well and see if they have tarot decks there. But even, if you're not on the lookout for tarot decks, I think that Signum is still a very beautiful shop, worthy of, checking out. All their products are handcrafted and are unique. So yeah, very, very special and cool little shop. Okay, so just now Signum, I believe, was shop number 3, and now we are on to shop number 4, and this one's in Rome, and it's called Libreria Editrice. Um, they're, again, not really a tarot shop per se. It's primarily a bookshop, but I did notice that in their display case outside. Oh, and by the way, this shop does not have like a sign outside their shop. Like, it doesn't say the shop name. So I'll see if I can like put some kind of link or at least the name of the shop, and you can go on Google Maps and look it up. But anyways, so it's primarily a bookshop, but they did have a couple of tarot decks in the display window. And I did try to ask the staff inside whether they had any other decks inside the shop, and unfortunately, it was just all books inside. So all the decks that they have are already shown in the little display like window outside. The ones that I saw, I wasn't sure if they were mass market decks, at least not ones that I was familiar with. So, if you're in the area by any chance and you want to check it out, then yeah, they do have a couple of decks there as well. Shop number 5, and this is the last shop that I'll be talking about. This one is also in Rome. It's about 10 minutes or 15 minutes walk tops from the Colosseum. and it is called Libreria Esoterica Harmonia Mundi. So this one is a metaphysical shop. Again, they have all things metaphysical, like, you know, your crystals, incense, and all that good stuff. But at the end, at the back of the shop, I should say, they also have a good selection of tarot decks. And there's a bunch that are, again, the mass market decks in Italian. I did notice that they also had some from the Italian publishers like Il Meneghello. I think also some from Del Negro. So yeah, I spent quite some time there actually as well. And this is more of a side note, I suppose. I can't remember if it was this shop or some other place I was researching, but basically, you know, I was doing my planning and research online, and I think I came across some Google reviews of, again, I can't remember if it was this shop now, but you know, some people saying how, oh, you know, the owners, if you're a tourist and don't speak Italian, you know, they're not interested in talking to you, and just, I guess the person left a bad review of a shop. And I just wanted to say that, you know, my experience in Italy overall was not at all like that. In fact, I had a great experience. I think a simple greeting, you know, buongiorno, buonasera, really goes a long way. So yeah, like, you know, at this shop, Harmonia Mundi, I had some questions about some of the decks, and obviously I don't speak Italian, so I had to use a lot of hand gesturing and, you know, try to use some universal language signaling, I suppose. But you know, I found that they were very kind and helpful. They even pulled up on their screen like a flip through of, I can't remember, one of the YouTubers on here. They showed, you know, a flip through video of that because I couldn't get any reception in the shop. So yeah, like they were just very helpful and friendly, and yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. So yeah, those are all of the shops that I visited that had tarot decks. And of course, I bought a number of decks while I was there. So that will be in the next part of this video. So if you're interested in that, please continue watching. All right, so this next part of the video will be the tarot deck haul portion. I have 8 decks to show you guys, and last time I checked, there's already some form of like flip through video for each of these decks, so I don't think I'll be making any, unless of course, like for some reason they're no longer there. And if that's the case and you'd like me to make one, then please feel free to let me know. So the first deck that I got is this one. It is Tarocco delle Grottesche, or the Grotesques Tarot, and the original artist is Johann Theodor de Bry. And it's restored and independently published by Giordano Berti. The box has this ribbon opening, which I think is really cute. So let's go ahead and open that up. The deck comes in this golden pouch. It's not the best quality, but a pouch is a pouch, right? And I do appreciate these, you know, extra, you know, goodies. And then you have a booklet. And this booklet talks a little bit about the original artist, and then where this deck came from, or I guess the origins of the artwork. And then at the end, there are some card meanings for each of them, and it's all in Italian though, so I'm gonna need Google Translate to help me out here, but there is a little booklet, and this is just like a little slip of paper that came inside the shrink wrap, or between the shrink wrap and this box, so I just thought I'd keep it. It says it's a limited copy edition of 888, so there's that. By the way, this is a majors only deck, so 22 majors plus there are 2 extra cards, so a total of 24. But the front of the box still says 22 for some reason. I wasn't particularly on the lookout for a majors only deck because it's not really something that I usually work with. But for some reason, this deck just caught my eye, and yeah, I just decided to go for it. So the deck does have an authenticity or certificate of authenticity card. So there's that. This is what the card backs look like. But yeah, let's go back to the front. And I'll just flip through a few of these. I briefly looked at the booklet, and from what I gather, and don't quote me on this, the artwork for each of these cards comes from copper engravings. And the idea is that, so you see how each card has a letter on it? So the idea is that the universe is made up of building blocks, and each letter is meant to represent one of these building blocks. So I guess, yeah, I find this to be an interesting concept, and it sort of reminds me of the chemical elements, how they're represented by different letters in the periodic table. I'm also amazed by all the details on these cards, and you know, for this to have come from copper engravings, like, I think there's an incredible amount of craftsmanship and artistry going on here, by both the original artist and Giordano Berti, of course. And I suppose, like, one of the downsides to this deck, though, is the cardstock. So I don't normally care much about cardstock, but like, these are pretty big cards. Let me actually get a standard tarot card just for comparison. All right, so here's a standard tarot card, and as you can see, it is quite a bit bigger. I mean, not the standard. It's quite a bit bigger than the standard tarot card size. And when I first got these cards, like, they just felt a bit wobbly to me. And when I first opened the deck as well, like, the cards were kind of warped, and I had to basically use some really heavy books to just kind of flatten out the deck as much as I could. So there's that. But otherwise, I think conceptually this is a really interesting deck, and you know, there's just sort of like a lot of different elements on the artwork and each of the cards to just sort of like savor. So overall, I'm happy to have stumbled upon this deck, and I think I might try to see if I'll use this deck for, like, I don't know, card of the year or something. Or maybe, because it's got 24 cards. I'm wondering if there's a way to sort of use it to work with like the astrological side of stuff, or maybe like the seasons, because there's like 12 months and 24 is a multiple of that. So yeah, I don't know. We shall see. All right, so the next deck is this one. It is the Marseille-Piedmont Lando 1832. It is another one that's restored by Giordano Berti, and I am quite excited for this one because it is my first ever Marseille deck. Can you believe it? As a tarot lover, I've always wanted to get into Marseille because it's just another one of those classic tarot systems. And, I started with the Rider-Waite-Smith, and then I got a bit into Thoth Tarot. And so Marseille just seemed to be an inevitable thing. So, anyways, back to, this particular version. Many of Giordano's decks have an art box version and a deluxe version. So this one that I have is the art box version, and it comes in a 2-piece box. Again, we've got that little slip of paper mentioning the limited print run. But yeah, for the deluxe box version, I'm not really sure what the difference is, other than the fact that it opens up like a book, kind of like the one I showed you earlier just now. By the way, Giordano Berti does have a website, and they do ship internationally, which is super cool. So, if you're interested, you can go take a look and check out the differences in the shop listings. But I'm not sure if this and the previous deck that I showed you, whether these two in particular are on the website or not. But anyways, I just thought I'd mention that in case you didn't know he has a website. So yeah, I'll be sure to put a link down in the description box below, and you guys can check it out. Alright, where was I? Okay, so yeah, it comes with a little booklet, and I believe it talks about the origins of where this deck and artwork comes from. So there's a bit about that, and then the second part of this booklet is just like some promotional stuff with some of Giordano Berti's other decks. So there's that. And then we've got this deck in a pouch situation again, but this time the pouch is much better quality. So I really like this one. And then there's a little fold out, and I believe this one has the card meanings, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so they're on the back here. Again, everything is in Italian, so Google Translate is going to be needed for this, for me at least. Oh, by the way, the inside of the box is this like really lush, kind of like velvety lining. And it's the same for the other deck as well, the previous one that I showed, but I think I forgot to mention it. So yeah, just so you know. So the deck itself, the cardstock, almost feels like the same as the previous deck, but it works so much better for this size. And I guess this is like my first, oh, this is the card backs. But yeah, like this is my first time ever getting my hands on one of these like historical artisan decks. And I have to say, I had a moment here when I first took the deck out, because there's there's such a raw feeling to it, and it really is an experience to have one in your hands. So yeah, I honestly don't know how else to describe it, but anyways, you know, I think I never really looked into Marseille decks as much in the past, because there's something about pip decks that that used to throw me off. You know, I feel like there's just not a whole lot to work with, especially the minors. You know, having started reading tarot with Rider-Waite-Smith, where everything is just so scenic, but somewhere along the line, I guess, not really sure what happened or when that sort of like breakthrough moment happened, but I don't know, maybe I just took it as a challenge and tried to convince myself that I should learn this system. And eventually I did find myself exploring this system using a different approach than how I did with the Rider-Waite-Smith or even Toth. So, you know, instead of focusing on the different elements in a card and, you know, trying to extract any kind of symbology or meaning, I would look at, and this is for the minors, by the way. Maybe I should go flip to the minors. Sure, let's go with cups. So yeah, like instead of trying to extract any kind of specific symbology and deriving meaning out of that, what I would do is look at the placement of the suits on the card instead. Looking at the interaction of, or like the progression of these ornamental details and embellishments surrounding these suits. I'm just gonna flip over a few so you can get an idea. I also found it interesting that the Roman numeral 4 is represented by 4 ones. So if I go back 2 cards, yeah, you can see that it's 4 ones instead. So that was something different for me. And also in Marseille, the Fool is placed as the last card instead in the majors, which is again something different and interesting to me. I'm probably gonna get the book Untold Tarot at some point to learn a bit more about the Marseille system. So yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more to Marseille than meets the eye at first glance, and I'm excited to get to know this system more. Okay, so the next deck that I got is Il Tarocco delle Vetrate by Luigi Scapini, and it's published by Dal Negro. So the name of this deck roughly translates to Stained Glass Tarot according to Google Translate, and this is a full 78 card deck inspired by stained glass windows from the Middle Ages, is what it says on the back here. So let's take a look. I never keep my tuck boxes fully closed now because I'm always afraid I'll rip the cover. It comes with a little white book that's in Italian, English, and French, which is wonderful. There's a brief but interesting little introduction. Let's see if I can get to it. Yeah, so there's a brief but interesting little introduction about different categories of energies of tarot cards, and then it goes straight into the card meanings after that. But yeah, I think the intro is worth reading because the card meanings that come afterwards do make reference to those energies. So yeah, there's that. Again, this was not a deck that I was particularly on the lookout for, and I just kind of stumbled upon it and decided to go for it. So I wasn't really sure what to expect, but yeah, for this one, I was just somehow, I guess, drawn to the colors on the box. But I did get a surprise when I opened the box up and took the cards out. So as you can see, there's just, this title card, and then when I flipped over, all right, so I hope I'll be able to capture this properly, but it's got a holographic card back, and I don't know if you can tell, but there are these holographic dots that just kind of dance around. It might be easier if you focus on the dark part of the card, but I promise in person it is super cool. I hope you can see that. It almost looks like there are two layers to this holographic effect. Like there's one layer of dots on the top and another layer at the bottom. So it's very 3D. I mean, I do have another deck that has a holographic back to it. Oops. And that is the Tabula Mundi. But the way that one works is a little bit different. It's more rainbow colored, and the holographic effect is more like little flecks of light bouncing around, but this one just has that 3D effect. So anyways, yeah, I was just so mesmerized by this when I first opened it, and I was just like, twirling it around like this for the longest time. But anyways, onto the cards. There are definitely some Kabbalistic references in here. So for example, in the Magician card, there's some Tree of Life stuff going on in the background. And on the High Priestess, I'm not sure if it shows up on camera, but on the cover of this book, again, you've got that Tree of Life diagram. On the Empress, that shield looks awfully familiar. For those of you who worked with the Thoth, you'll know what I'm talking about. And yeah, just, look at the incredible amount of detail on these cards. Again, we've got that Roman numeral 4 with the 4 ones instead. And then this Chariot card, it's depicted quite differently than some of the other ones I've seen. So usually the ones that I see are, the head-on view, but here it's shown from the side. So I'm really liking the difference in perspective and the depiction here. Again, same with the Hermit. So usually there's a lamp in front, but here it's an hourglass instead. So yeah, I find that quite interesting. Actually, let's take a look at some of the minors. So here's the wands. And as you can see, each wand is not quite the same, you know, across these cards, unlike say a traditional Marseille deck. So even though I would still say that this is a Pippish deck, the different coloration and depiction of these wands across the different cards, or even within the same card, you know, they're quite different. And you've got this lush greenery and, you know, these patterns happening in the back as well. So I feel like there's a lot to work with, and I love that. And here are some of the court cards. And then maybe let's quickly go to some other suits. Sure, let's do swords. And pentacles. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna move on to the next one because I think this is gonna turn into a really long video, and I apologize for the rambles. So anyway, and yeah, we're only on deck number 3, so yeah, that's the Stained Glass Tarot, and let's move on. Next we have Tarocco Indovino. It is another one published by Del Negro, and let's see, so on the back here, it says that it was designed in 1979 by Sergio Ruffalo. It's funny how they specified Capricorn after his name, and I guess that explains the Capricorn image here. This is another deck where I wasn't sure what to expect, but I picked it up anyways because I thought the fabric covered box was kind of cool. So it does come with a little booklet, and in the beginning it's got a little bit about the Celtic cross spread, but otherwise it goes straight into the card meanings. There is both an upright and a reversed meaning for each of the cards, and for the minors they also have a keyword for each. So that's what this little booklet is like. Here's what the card back looks like. Immediately I'm loving the quirky artwork here. I wouldn't have imagined that this was designed back in 1979. And so yeah, it features the 12 zodiac signs. I mean, that one must be Leo, right? And that one must be Libra. So yeah, we've got, you know, it starts from Aquarius down here, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and then it goes all the way up like that until Capricorn at the top left corner. Super cute card, isn't it? And I'll just quickly flip through a few cards here. It's still in the order that it came in, so I found it interesting that it started with the World and it's actually going in reverse order here. I feel like the majors are loosely Rider-Waite-Smith based, and also for some reason I feel like the people on these cards all belong to the same town for some reason. Maybe it's the houses on top of a hill kind of thing that recurs on every single card. That makes me think that way. For the minors, I got two little surprises. First is the playing card symbol. I was not expecting that. It would be interesting to be able to make use of that, although I'd have to learn and readjust to the letter cards, right? So instead of instead of K and Q for king and queen, I'd have to, learn the Italian counterpart. But, having this I think is really interesting because, if I were ever to get into, say, reading with playing cards, then I think this deck would totally work. And the second surprise was these keywords, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, let me check, I think they might be the same as the ones in the little guidebook. Okay, yes, so these keywords are the same as the one found in that little booklet, but still, I do like having the keywords here. I feel like, it's an extra layer to work with if I wanted to. And I guess I'll just flip through some of the minors here as well. Okay, so the numbered cards, they don't really feel so Rider-Waite-Smith in here. And normally I don't like humans in tarot cards for some reason, but in this case, there's something about the expressions and faces of these people that just draws me in. I like the, sort of like light, playful vibe. So yeah, overall, I feel like this deck is a pleasant surprise. And can I just say, I love that they added these like sturdy side panels to the box, because it really does help keep the cards in place, and I love that. So this next one is one that I have been highly, highly anticipating, and I think it is a favorite among many tarot enthusiasts. So it is La Corte dei Tarocchi by Anna Maria D'Onofrio, and it is published by Il Meneghello. So I think this was like the first ever deck that I saw or found from Il Meneghello, I should say, and it has been on my wish list for the longest time. So the copy that I have here is it's published back in 2022, and if you take the cards out, the first thing that you'll notice is the paper texture. Gosh, I feel like I'm turning into some kind of like cardstock snob or something, but if you run your finger across the card like this horizontally, you'll be able to feel these vertical ridges on this cardstock, and it's just a wonderful feeling. But yeah, moving on to the cards. This is another one with just this absolutely quirky vibe to it. I think it's these sort of like blank expressions on the faces of these people. Like, I don't know, I just find it quite humorous. It's kind of like they're in their own little bubble. I love the, how should I call this? I guess like the medievalness, if that's even a word, of this deck. And I think many of you who traverse the tarot side of YouTube would have already seen this deck. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Next up we have another Il Meneghello deck, and it is Tarocco Soprafino. I knew that I would be going to Il Meneghello during my trip to Italy, so I watched a bunch of videos online, and I tried to do as much, I tried to do as much research beforehand as possible, and there's a little piece of paper that describes where this deck came from, I think. But anyways, I watched a bunch from Marilyn at Tarot Clarity. There are a lot of great videos there comparing the different decks. And I believe I also watched a number of videos from A Tiger's Abyss. So yeah, they were really helpful in my research. So the one that I have here is the 3rd edition, and it's published in 2023. So I knew that I wanted to get a smaller sized historic deck, and also, spoiler alert, one of their larger historic decks as well, which you'll see very soon. But between the smaller ones, I guess I'll just flip through some cards while I'm at it. So between the smaller ones, I narrowed it down to this one and I believe, Minchiate Fiorentine. And honestly, both are beautiful, beautiful works of art. But this one, this is where I think the in-person experience really helped me, because this deck, again, has a very papery texture to it, although it doesn't have those same vertical ridges as the previous deck. And yeah, this one's just like a flat paper texture. But the Minchiate Fiorentine, the cardstock is a lot more smooth. And for me, it's not really too much about the cardstock here. I'm totally fine with either one. But I do feel like, for some reason, that the cardstock does impact how the colors come through. And this is something that I wasn't really able to pick up through watching videos alone. So from what I recall, the colors for the Minchiate Fiorentine seem just a tad more vibrant, and here in the Soprafino, the colors I feel like are more subdued in person. And yeah, I might be wrong about the whole cardstock thing, but I do feel like, that does impact the way the colors are shown. I also really love the sort of tea-stained background color here, which kind of adds to the historic look of the deck. I think the cups might just be my favorite suit in this deck. I find it so, so beautiful. So yeah, I feel like I'm going from almost like no pip decks to getting all pip decks. Well, not all, but you know what I mean. Alright, we are on deck number 7, and it is the last deck that I got from Il Meneghello, and it is one of the 3 big Visconti ones. Can you guess which one I got? I'll give you 2 seconds. Okay, so this one is the Tarocchi Visconti di Modrone, and The version that I got is published back in 2017. So first I decided not to go for the Visconti Sforza, even though it is the only deck among these three, I believe, which is a full 78 card deck. I don't know, something about the coloration, like it was just a bit more contrasted than what I personally would have liked. And then there's something about the hue of that deck that just, I guess, doesn't quite click with me. And this is totally, my personal preference only, because the decks and, the cards themselves are absolutely beautiful. The Visconti Sforza uses that sort of like smooth cardstock that I mentioned, and I don't know if it's like the exact same as that Minchiate Fiorentine one, but definitely very, very similar. And I'm not sure if, again, that cardstock impacted the way the colors came through for me. And then there's the Brambilla, which is gorgeous. I love the rich blue color in that deck. And oh my gosh, the suit of swords in that one is absolutely beautiful. There are missing cards, like, many of these historic decks. And that deck only has 48 cards, which is quite a lot of missing cards. So, in the end, I went with this one, the Modrone, which still has missing cards. This is a 67 card deck, but I do like the artwork. I do like the colors. I do love, again, that papery cardstock. So yeah, even though it's got missing cards, but I feel like this is more of a collectible deck. And I don't know, if I like it enough, maybe I'll get the low Scarabeo version of it too, because I think they, the low Scarabeo one, I think they recreate some of the missing cards to fill in for the ones that are not here. I don't know, we'll see. I'm not a fan of getting multiple decks that are too similar to each other, but I don't know, even though this is only a 67 card deck, it does feel like a piece of history. So yeah, it's definitely a special one. I also got the book for this deck, by the way, and I'm so mad at myself because Christina, the author of this book, was the one at the store when I visited. She is the niece of the late maestro, as I understand, and I felt like I should have asked for an autograph or something, but for some reason it just didn't occur to me at the time. But she did give me a nice little surprise gift, and my partner as well. So we each got to choose a card at random out of 3, and these were the ones that we got. I mean, it's got cats and it's related to tarot, so what is there not to love, right? So yeah, I think that this was really lovely and really nice of her to give us this little gift. Oops, I just realized this is out of focus, so here's a more clearer picture of the cards. Finally, we are on the last deck here, and it is an Etteilla deck. This one is a version by Libreria Editrice, which is an Italian publisher. They do have a website and a couple of decks there, although the majority of their publications are books. However, as of filming this video, it seems like they only ship within Italy. So yeah, anyways, Etteilla was another one of those classic decks that I wanted to get at some point, and I found it as a featured deck at Libreria Esoterica in Milan, so I just decided to get it. This is a mass market deck. It comes with a booklet, which unfortunately does not fit inside the box. It just came shrink wrapped with the deck, but it is. Oops, let me just get back get the focus back here. But yeah, it is a full color book, so that is very nice. So apparently there are a couple different versions of Etteilla, and this one is the one from the National Library of France. I guess that's what that says. And this version is the one circa 1867, and it's been translated into Italian. And I mean, if you've seen the Etteilla deck before, I don't think this artwork is going to be anything new to you. I do really like this sort of more faded color tone. These cards, they feel exactly like the Rain Shadow Tarot, if you have that. So it's very nice and sturdy, and it's got that like silky soft finish. Oh, and here are the card backs. It's just this wine color with a very subtle simple pattern at the back, so nothing too special going on here. But yeah, I'm just really excited to compare all the little details and nuances between these different versions of pip cards, like, you know, so between, say, this one, the Marseille, and then the Soprafino, and so on. And yeah, I can't believe I'm actually excited about pip decks now. So those are all the decks. Thank you if you've made it this far in the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these cards and decks, and you know, if there's anything you want to ask about the decks or the stores that I went to and mentioned, the comment section will always be open for you. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.